It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzika. The Tennessee Titans are officially into the bye week, sitting at 3-2 and at the top of the AFC South, thanks to the Jacksonville Jaguars' loss to Houston on Sunday. Mike Vrabel spoke to the media for the final time before next week yesterday about what the team wants to accomplish over the course of the off week.
Certainly we'll use the time to best to our advantage to try to get guys back healthy, give some guys some rest that have played a lot of football for us, and see if find ways to improve.
The Atlanta Braves have started their playoff run. They trail the Phillies now 3-1 in the top of the third with a runner on second and 2 outs. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. What's up, everybody? Hey, if you guys know somebody that can give Lucas Panzika some help, you need to call 615-737-1045. My man and his lady are leaving the country to go to some exotic location. And your boy changed a flight, Blaine, so he could leave an airport and go watch a ball game with other people in orange T-shirts.
Yeah.
Do people know that you've done this? Did you say this earlier today?
I have not said this. Well, I've stated that this was my goal, but now it's all just falling into place.
Changed a flight to meet your lovely, maybe for someday future Mrs. Panzika, and you were just going to watch it in the airport with like-minded people. So laid-back airport in Orlando. There's a nice big open area. You'd be fine there. You'd be safe
That's right,
there.
'cause you just came back from there, huh? When you did
I did, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was
You
just
guys
recently
drove.
in that airport.
Did y'all not drive? Oh, y'all flew down there.
Oh,
Okay.
no, we're not driving down there.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
It would not. No way.
Come on, you talking
Not with our kids. They're poor travelers.
Mixer's back might have been starting to hurt, man.
Most kids are poor travelers.
Yeah, I'm too old.
How much did that cost you?
Well, I don't know yet. I haven't officially made the
know
call.
yet.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I haven't officially made the call. It's going to happen, though. It'll probably cost me about $100.
$100
Yeah,
per person?
Well, no. So Megan and I are meeting in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
Because she's coming from Toledo.
Ohio.
This sounds like a Hallmark movie. Not that I've ever seen any of those.
So
but
you're going to let her
meeting in
get
Puerto
to
Rico.
Puerto Rico and just sitting there waiting on you?
I believe I will arrive first.
Oh.
I will arrive
You
to Puerto
still
Rico
arrive
first. I'm safe because my flight leaves Orlando at 10 p.m. Eastern time. The game is a 3:30 Eastern kickoff. My flight is currently scheduled to land from Nashville to Orlando at 4 p.m. Eastern, and that just won't do. I will not rely on airplane Wi-Fi to be able to watch the beginning of the Tennessee-Alabama game. So I'm going to have my flight get there much earlier so I have time to leave the airport, ride 20 to 30 minutes to this sports bar where the Tennessee Alumni Association of Central Florida is meeting to watch the Alabama game, watch the game there. Worst case scenario, 4-hour game. It's over at 7:30 Eastern. I have 20 to 30 minutes to get back to the airport 2 hours before my flight leaves.
What in the world?
Yeah. I have mapped this out in my head.
We see where your priorities are at.
Yes.
You got them right where they need to be. Right on the
I thought this was going
right
in a different direction.
I'm like
what is wrong with
Kevin
you?
in Home Alone when he's mapping out the booby traps.
You don't talk to people like this who do things like this to think that you got to talk some sense into. No way. Hey, way to have pride for your alma mater.
You're reinforcing his behavior. That's you're 100%. You got this the right way.
Yeah,
this is not
you
the
got
week.
it all organized and everything. You won't miss your flight. You get there still before your girl. I mean, everything's mapped out.
This is not the week for rational thinking.
Yeah.
If it was South Carolina, if it was Vanderbilt, if it was Kentucky, if it was any other game.
So we get to really actually hear Lucas
I would be
how
in the
it feels
airport.
to be a homegrown, forever Tennessee fan. And because what I hear in him, he still doesn't want to believe that they have an outside shot of beating Bama. They just don't want to take that in. They know they're going to compete with them this time, but they don't believe that they're going to win.
Well, I believe they can win. That's the problem.
See, they can. They can. No.
His head's in his back.
No,
I
they can.
believe that they
Pop
can.
open the can, break it open. It's going to happen. You got to believe that. And that shows you, and it's because of the history in the past and everything that goes with it. Guess what? This is a new team.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different coach.
It is.
They have shown the signs, what he did the first year, now leading to this year. That's why I predicted they'd go 10-2. And now I said there was a possibility, even when I said that they could beat Alabama. And now I believe they can.
This is also because
at home. Yeah. Oh, my. It's going to be raucous.
An orange out.
It's going to be out of control. It's going to be lit. It's going to be so much energy going through those guys out there, man. I think they're going to get them. I think they're going to get them. I do, man. And I want to see Nick Saban's hair in his head just blow up. I do, because he's going to lose it. If they, whoever's at quarterback, they turn the ball over, I think he's going to lose it. I think he's going to lose it because he's going to see that he's going to go down. Then he doesn't like the no-huddle offense. And so if that gets him, he's really going to be perturbed. And he won't be able to admit it. I'm hoping it happens, man. Now, here's the key question. We got to put it out here on Twitter for this game. Will they storm the field when they win? And will Danny White keep them from trying to do that with security all over the place? Or will he just say, relent and I'll just pay the fine? It was worth it.
Danny White strikes me as a guy that says, let's pay that fine.
I will say there are rumors out of Knoxville that there are some backup goalposts being built. I saw that this morning. I saw that too. And I don't know who said it or where it came from. I'll give credit if I can find it later.
Backup goalposts.
But there are rumors that there are goalposts being created that Danny White is more than prepared to eat whatever comes his way if the Vols are able to pull this one off.
Well, that's how we start the show off today.
Oh, actually, I think what you're talking about was from a fake news account.
Yes.
Well, we didn't ask where it came from.
But it's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched.
Well, and it looked like a fake thing. But fans behind there were underneath it like, I'll give money. I'll donate for new goalposts. Right. Tear them down.
Absolutely.
It's either the goalposts or what was the deal that other time they threw it with ketchup or mustard or whatever?
Well, yeah, a lot of mustard.
Well, yeah, that was.
And people are saying it is a fake news account. I'm not saying the news account, like where it came from, wasn't fake, but the responses to it sound like a bunch of people who are ready to go tear up some goalposts.
The reason I am how I am with this game is because the combination of what Tennessee's lack of success against Alabama for majority of my lifetime.
Which is mostly every school, by the way.
Sure, yep. Well, but two teams have to play Alabama every single year, Tennessee and Auburn. Auburn has found ways to beat Alabama over the years. Auburn's had good teams over the years. Mm-hmm. Tennessee is not in the Nick Saban era. The reason I am how I am is because all of that combined with growing up in Birmingham, Alabama for 10 years of my life from age 8 to 18 broke me when it came to the Tennessee-Alabama rivalry to the point where I'm buying concert tickets to avoid watching the game. I'm booking Puerto Rico trips months in advance in anticipation of this game, not thinking that this was going to be a showdown between two undefeated teams in the top 7, in the top 6.
Well, you should have just called me, Lucas. I would have told you.
Yeah, I should have listened to you because you've been saying 10-2 all offseason.
I'm telling you. And I think they could exceed. I really do. I believe it, man. I think it's it. If Bryce Young doesn't play, which I think he will, and if they had Tillman, I would be really all in that I would say they're going to win it. This is going to be a good one. I think they got a great shot, though. I think they're going to be right there. They did it. They held, well, you know the stats. They were right in it in the fourth quarter in Alabama last year.
They were, yeah. It snowballed in the fourth, but they were in the game.
Hooker is better. And guess what? If they win, which I'm going to say they're going to win, Hooker then propels himself to the leading candidate of the Heisman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because then who is he competing against? Who else? There are other quarterbacks out there. But, man, you go up over the Alabama guy, and you beat him head to head. Uh-oh. Now we got something brewing. For real brewing. Not just talk, chatter, and, oh, yeah, he's kind of outside looking in. No, he's looking you dead in the eyeballs.
So everything you're saying, this is why I cannot risk being alone if Tennessee wins that game.
What are you going to do?
I will not handle it well.
You're going to be in the airport. Nobody's going to know why you're screaming and yelling. They might call the police.
Exactly. I might get kicked out. It might be a national security issue.
So if you feel the same way as Lucas, that you're just still a little skeptical, you're just hoping it can happen. But you're feeling the anxiety of past history really just taking you down. Call us in. Call in. 737-1045 The Zone.
You know, the thing I'm most surprised that we haven't heard from this week, because I, in perusing the station and hearing different people call different shows, here's where this all comes from. Derrick Henry, his second year or so, he did this series of appearances at Kroger stores.
Oh, yeah.
And that was back in the 3HL days. And so we were there late in the afternoon, and Derrick Henry would come and he would sign these posters, or you could bring anything to a Kroger store and he would sign it. And so the line would get long, like all the way back to where we were sitting. And I would ask people, gosh, did you drive all the way up here from, somewhere in Alabama, from Huntsville or something? They're like, no, man, I'm Smyrna. And I'm like, oh, did you grow up in Alabama? No. Oh, your family's all from down. No. So how'd you get to be an Alabama fan? That happened so many times. Nobody was from Alabama. I mean, think about it.
Well, it was during the hard times of Tennessee.
People
and a lot of people
jumped ship for Alabama.
Yeah.
All these people, they're good. I'm rooting for the good team.
Which is fine. But
no, that's not fine.
They cannot come back.
Well,
they cannot come back.
No, not welcome.
But they don't get to join in this moment.
No.
You do not want to hang out with them
They
in
can
Orlando
cry
Airport.
and their sorrows and everything else when it happens. It's gonna be a good one. If they turn that ball over a couple of times, Nick Saban's gonna lose.
And you're right. They appear to be a better team. How much does the secondary of Tennessee scare you, though?
Yeah. Oh, it does. It does. It does. But what brings me back to light is that can they just hold the fort and just give up a couple plays? Because what I do believe is, and I saw it last year, Alabama can't stop their offense either.
Yeah.
Alabama can't stop their offense unless they make some mistakes. They were moving up and down the field. So, and remember, one time the guys weren't even paying attention. They ran right by the cornerback for Alabama. He's up there standing there trying to get the call. Game. They wasn't ready. They wasn't ready. So we'll see if they're ready this year. But this is gonna be, man. This is Alabama week. This is the real week where you have a great shot at turning the tide down.
Lucas, are you even letting yourself entertain the thought of what would it be like?
I don't think he really believes 100% that they can win this.
I am entertaining the thought because that's why I'm going so out of my way.
You just want to be there.
So your hacks are telling you are all in?
Because I know I know that this is a very real possibility that this will happen. And like I said, I can't risk being alone in a random airport bar when that happens.
Watch this. Will you cry in happiness?
He's crying. Yes.
If you guys win.
Blaine, yes, he's going to cry.
Because you said you cried when you were like, I don't know, 5 or 6
The last time I cried for Tennessee football was in 2007 when they lost the SEC championship to LSU. When I was
Jacob Hester, who
like
we had
11,
on the air, and he told that story. Yeah, not about Lucas crying.
I know, out of happiness, or sadness. Nothing. That's what the fan right there. That's what I love to hear. That
there's no way of knowing for sure.
He's crying,
but I'm not.
100%. You're crying, dude. He's emotional, high strung. Look at him. He's emotional now.
I'm very stressed.
He's very stressed. I don't know if I've ever been stressed out. I could definitely say that about the Vols game. So I can't even. So, that just shows you how in the South it just means more. It's like what everybody says in the SEC. So, it's life or death. It's going to work or not going to work. It's, ruining your week to having a great week.
Yep.
I mean, so I get it. I get it, man. So,
and if you love sports, that's what makes living here so great.
Yeah.
That's what makes living in the South so great. And some people say, hey, man, y'all need to get your priorities together. Well, football's just a big part of people's life down here.
And if anyone within the sound of my voice will happen to be in Orlando, Florida, when they're watching this game on Saturday, at Lucas Panzika on Twitter, hit me up.
Yeah, okay. Lucas is going to be like Jim Valvano looking for somebody to hug after that game. Let's grab a quick phone call. Jackson in Hickman County wants to continue this discussion on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. What's up, Jackson?
Jason?
Oh, sorry, Jason. Yep, I got a friend named Jackson that I talked to earlier today. You are Jason, and he is Jackson. What's up?
How y'all doing?
Good.
We'll be doing better on Saturday when the Vols win.
Well, I done bought my tickets. I've been singing "We Don't Give a" about the whole state of Alabama since Sunday, and just waiting. My wife's already saying she ain't gonna be able to stand me by Saturday, and we're about to put a butt whooping on them Tide.
Man, Jackson is all in on this deal.
Yeah.
Let's get one more real quick. Luke's going to bark at us because we're going to be late. But Phil in the borough, what do you think about this Vols Bama game this weekend?
Well, I got three things to say.
Okay.
First of all, be careful what you wish for. I'm an Alabama fan. Be careful what you wish for.
There we go.
Second of all, Alabama has won more games on the hill than they have in Alabama. And three, my wife is mad at me because I'm not going to the MTSU game with her.
Oh, Phil. Boy, Phil covered a lot of ground in that phone call there. Phil, if Mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. I'd take a long
That
look
means
at
both of y'all not going to be happy if it's a Vols beat show.
Boy, Alabama wins and Mama goes the middle of the game alone. Phil's going to be sleeping in the bonus room
Tennessee. Yeah.
on the couch. When we come back, Wes Rucker. Let's just keep this discussion going with the man who covers the Vols for Go Vols 247. That's next on Blade and Mickey. He's good. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Taking your calls on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Let's take a call on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline right now from Wes Rucker. Go Vols 247, senior writer.
Oh.
So how long do you have to write till you can even be a senior writer, Wes?
He said 1 semester.
That's a good question. I did just recently turn 40, but I actually was named a senior writer when I was like 28. I got a contract and it said senior writer, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's what I am. I really had no idea.
Oh, man. Okay. So it means more pay, though, right?
And a gold watch or something, corner office, right?
I would think so, yes.
You got a ring that says senior writer on it.
I would think so. Like, I'm building a helicopter pad on top of my house right now as we speak.
Well, sure, probably like a corner office in the Sun Sphere, something like that too, right?
Yeah, I only live like 1.9 or not miles from Neyland Stadium, I think, but sometimes there's traffic, so I'm just gonna take a helicopter. I'm gonna do what coaches do for recruiting visits.
Well, Josh Heifel, they probably buy him a helicopter right now. As well as things are going. I want to ask you this because I've been asking, like a lot of my friends who are VFLs, I'm asking them to go back and remember, how did they feel when Josh Heifel got hired? What were your thoughts when he got hired?
They weren't simple thoughts. I think everyone deserves a chance, but I wasn't opposed to the hire, and I thought, given the situation, given what Tennessee was facing at the time, you didn't know that the NCAA was going to change some of its guidelines for investigating stuff. You didn't know how things like that might change. You didn't know that some of the NIL stuff and how much that would change everything. There were so many things that in hindsight, there's just no way to know. But in reality, I thought, given where they were, I thought they did a pretty good job to get any kind of sitting head coach that was at a pretty decent program, because they were in a bad way. They had lost 30 plus guys to the transfer portal. It was a mess. So to walk away from there with anybody, it was decent. I think that was a pretty good job at the time. Did you know at the time that Tennessee was maybe hiring something like the league's next Spurrier? You never know those things, right? You've been conditioned for a while to think that, well, this is somehow going to go wrong. How's this going to go wrong? And maybe it won't.
All that being said, are you surprised now that the Vols are number 6 and undefeated, and they're about to host another game day, and they're 5-0 this far in the season? Are you surprised by how fast you mentioned all those people leaving, that he seems to have rebuilt this thing? I won't say brick by brick, but rebuilt it.
In a word, yes. In 2 words, hell yes. I'm surprised. I didn't think this was. You never want to say something like this is impossible, but I would call it highly improbable. I go back to that first spring that Heifel was the head coach, and he lets us see a little bit of practice, a fair amount in spring, a little bit in preseason camp, and then virtually nothing once the season starts until bowl stuff. So basically, long story short, I saw that first spring, and I thought, I'll eat my hat if this team goes to a bowl game. You had a long snapper who was taking reps at linebacker. You had walk-ons all over the place. You had no depth anywhere. You had a handful of pretty good players that I thought you could see were good players. And then it was a whole lot of, I don't know how they're going to put this together. But they did, and they don't focus on what they can't do. They focus on what they can do. They go into the work every day with a pretty good attitude. They've kind of built a culture over there, and that's how they're plugging in guys now, and they're getting results out of them. I would have thought something like this, and regardless of how it goes against Bama and Georgia this year, we'll see. But just getting to this point, I would have thought was something that was at least 2 years away.
Talking to Wes Rucker, senior writer. Go Vols 247 at Wes Rucker 247 on Twitter.
Well, Wes, what's not 2 years away is game day coming back. Or are they? Because they deleted some things, and then Herbstreit came back and said they are coming. So, come on, give us the final word and verdict on this, right? They're coming, right?
They are coming. Yes, I believe they are still arriving. If people over there, unless they're lying to me, which I suppose is always possible, but I'm pretty sure they're still coming. It's the second time in like 3 weeks, and it's not just that, but SEC Nation is in town. Their Saturday morning show on the network is in town too. Marty and McGee. There's I'm sure VFL McGee didn't have to pull his arm to get him to come to town. But it's crazy. Like they're having all three of those shows on campus, which I don't know how many times that's ever even happened. So they're having to find places on campus to put everybody. But yeah, I mean they're getting ready for a big party, man. It's going to be something.
Well, give us your laundry list of pickers who should be guests on the set there there with the game day.
Well, my number one choice is and always will be Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
That's number one with a bullet. And if not her, God, I would love to see Bill dance. Oh, my God, that would be so fantastic.
Hey, he's carried the brand flag for years. Now, if anybody deserves a shot, it should be Bill.
I mean, just and let him do the picks from a bass boat there on the Tennessee River right there at the stadium. Please, like, I'm writing your script here, ESPN. Please listen to me. But, I think generally the idea with those things is to bring in someone who would bring extra viewers. So I'm sure they'll be trying to find somebody really good. Last time they tried to get Dolly Parton, she was just, I think, in L.A. doing something else, and she couldn't make it, or they had scheduling problems. So I don't know who they're going to pick. Last time I didn't know until I think Thursday someone basically said, it's going to be Bianca Belair, but if you tell anyone, I'll kill you. And so I don't really know who it's going to be yet, but my first two choices absolutely would be Dolly Parton and then Bill Dance.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Well, we started the show off. We're with Wes Rucker, Go Vols 247 CBS Sports. With if the Vols win, will they storm the field, or will there be security everywhere and Danny White will not let it happen, or you just pay the fine? What do you think will happen?
I think, generally speaking, I am anti-field storming at places like Tennessee because that's normally for either places where that's just part of their tradition that they always do. Like you see some schools that are like that. And then you see others that do it for like shocking upsets of like a number one team out of nowhere by a team that hasn't done anything in like 50 years. I get those, but generally speaking for a place like Tennessee, I don't think you do that, but I think this would be one of those cases where you do it. I mean, I think you make sure you have security protocols in place that make sure that all the players get off the field safely and all the coaches, lest we forget that mustard bottles and more importantly, golf balls were thrown at Lane Kiffin last year. Let's make sure everyone is safe if that happens. Have a plan in place for that, like put an army of people around Nick Saban and some of those guys. But if you win the game, I don't think you can tell them to not go on the field. I think, if you told Danny White that everybody would be healthy and there would be no problems, there would be no incidents, and you would look good on TV, he'd probably be like, yeah, I'll pay that fine.
How would they get that information out to the students? Do they send out a text message, or how do they? What would they do if they were trying to get out, information like that? If let's just make sure we're safe at the game. I'm sure they have all kind of things, especially if like it was, something going on campus, whether it was, a crime or something else. So I'm sure that's the same avenue they would use to, I guess, send out the message to all the students, right?
They probably could do something like that. I mean, I would think, honestly, it kind of reminds me of that old Mike Tyson quote about everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. I mean, you're dealing with 100,000+ people, most of whom will be wearing orange, most of whom will be, at least some of them will be fairly intoxicated. You can usually smell the sour mash from a mile away inside the stadium. It's hard to keep a crowd like that in check. It just kind of is, and let's be honest, a lot of the security people, they're not trying to get hurt.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, I'll be like, go ahead.
Have at it.
A lot of times they make, you played in the league, sometimes you got to make a business decision, man. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm just going to step out of bounds here. I got to worry. I want to be able to pick up my kids in 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, all those times those guys are making game time decisions and business ones. But, yeah, I mean, I would hope that everyone would go out there, if they did go out there in the mode of, like, fraternity, brotherhood, being excited, and maybe not so much rubbing it in the face of your opponent. But I can never guarantee that.
Well, speaking of stepping out of bounds, I guess last off the field question, and that is, I guess, kind of take us through this Jalen McCullough, situation. And do you think he'll be playing, or is too soon to tell, or suspended, or what do you make of this whole situation?
I have no idea yet, and the reason it's pretty weird to me is that normally it's just kind of a boilerplate in this case that you say we're suspend, especially when there's a felony charge. My God, I mean, you would say we're looking into the situation, but John Doe is indefinitely suspended while we look into the matter. But in this case, unless they're keeping it just quiet, I don't know that they've suspended him. They've not announced it that I've heard it anyway. I mean, I've been doing these shows all day for a couple of days, so I may have missed something, unfortunately.
No,
but
I just said what was the situation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so it's weird to me that they haven't done that. But then again, the second that I saw that incident report, things just did not add up to me. That is a guy who's, there's a guy who's at his girlfriend's apartment, minding their own business, and someone who's allegedly intoxicated walks in there by accident. And if you're a guy, you're in your girlfriend's house and you're thinking, why is this dude trying to walk in here? Then there's some comments going back and forth. And then once the guy leaves, he makes another comment. McCullough allegedly goes after him, socks him. The guy falls down the stairs and loses a couple teeth. And so they come and then they arrest him. I wonder, looking at the incident report, if someone accidentally walks into someone else's house and then there's a confrontation, why there's no breaking and entering charge or why there's no trespassing charge, because that's 100% what that is. But there's a felony charge for the other guy. I don't know. And knowing Jalen McCullough and his reputation and every incident that I've ever had with him, you never really know anyone. I've learned that over the years, but he'd be on my list of top 5 guys on the team I would not expect something like this from. So I'd be willing to let this one play out and see what comes of it. And a lot of times that's always the right thing to do anyway. But a lot of times we say that when in the back of our mind we're thinking, yeah, this guy screwed up. That was bad. You can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
This feels like one of those times where I go, I want to hear more here. And I think that's what Tennessee's doing too.
Well said. We're on with Wes Rucker, senior writer for Go Vols 247 CBS Sports.
What's going on with Cedric Tillman? What's the latest with him? And I asked that saying a B part of this question, Wes. Gosh, the receivers have really stepped up in his absence.
Yeah, it's like they didn't – without Tillman, they've been putting up 1 billion yards. Without their left tackle at LSU, they still put up 1 billion yards. They're just kind of rolling dudes out there and playing ball, and I think Tillman probably plays in this game. I don't know that for sure, but at the time he underwent that tightrope surgery, I think their thinking was the absolute worst case scenario, he's back by Kentucky because there's no need for him to play next week against Martin. So sorry, Jason Simpson. I know I've known that guy a long time, but I don't think that's they need him for that game. But this was always kind of LSU would be best case scenario, but hopefully at least by Alabama. So I don't know if he could play, what kind of shape he'd be in. And I know that in order to play wide receiver in Tennessee's offense, you have to be in like Tour de France shape, basically, because of how much those guys have to run and how quickly they go from play to play. But I think he'll play. I don't know how much, but we'll see. My guess right now, sitting here on what day is it? They all run together. Tuesday. I think there's a chance. If you put a gun to my head, I'd say he probably plays, but I don't know that for sure.
What else is the health of the rest of the players on the team? Is there any other significant injuries?
None that I'm aware of. I know that last week, obviously, left tackle Gerald Mincy missed the game. I think they're expecting him back this week, no problem. I think that was just one of those better safe than sorry protocol deals, as I understand it. So they feel good about that. And I'm not aware of any significant injuries that occurred during the game. Jabari Small has dealt with shoulder issues the whole time he's been at Tennessee, but he's looked really good the past couple weeks. So I think they're okay there. Dylan Sampson came back last week. Hendon Hooker took that shot to the chest, but he shook it off eventually after about 5 minutes or so, and then he looked like himself again. So unless something happens in practice, I think other than that, Warren Burrell's out for the season, a couple of those deals, but I don't think there's anything new.
Bryce Young, you got to set odds that he plays in the game. Where are you going to set him?
Boy, I'm going to say 60% chance he plays, maybe. That would be just a guess. I mean, I think there's some complicating factors there because I do think I just jokingly used the phrase business decision earlier. I think there's legitimately a business decision to make here because you're talking about a first-round draft pick. You're talking about millions of dollars. I imagine he and especially his family will caution to be careful in a situation like this because even if he can play, that is his throwing shoulder. And I don't think anyone in Tuscaloosa needs a reminder that guys like Byron Young, Tyler Barron, Tennessee's defensive line, they've put big hits on every quarterback they played this year. They are pretty stout up front. So even if he does play, he's going to take some shots, and then are you making it worse? Bama's trying to play for the playoff, obviously. I don't know. I mean, I know he'll want to play, knowing the competitiveness of that kid. I know Saban will want him to play, but so I think he probably will, but I wouldn't guarantee it. I'd say probably 60% chance he plays, maybe 65%.
Wes Rucker, our guest, senior writer, Go Vols 247 at Wes Rucker 247. Follow him there.
Well, what you're saying, 60%, that means Tennessee has to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. How difficult do you think that would be for this defense, let alone, what does the defense have to do? What's some keys to, winning this game from a defensive perspective?
That's a really good question, and I've asked a couple guys that directly this week, and it's been interesting, the different replies that you hear. Like I asked that question to Latrell Bumpus, a kid who's been at Tennessee for, it seems like, 45 years, and the old defensive lineman, and he was like, "Man, it ain't that big of a deal. Like, just make sure you know which quarterback's in on which play. We've done this before. It's not that big a deal." And then you talk to linebacker Aaron Beasley, who's also a senior, but hasn't played as much football as Bumpus in his career. And he's thinking, it does complicate things a little bit because you got to do a couple different plans. I think it really just depends on the player, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's probably more likely to bother a freshman than it would be an upperclassman. And that could be interesting because I don't know what's going on with McCullough, but McCullough's not in there because he's the best athlete on the field. Far from it. They could put in just about any other safety there, and they'll be physically better than they were with McCullough out there. But McCullough knows the defense. He knows what he's doing. He knows where he should be and where other guys should be. And so he and Flowers back there both are good at that. So to me, that would maybe be concerning if you put in the younger guy back there. But there's I think at the end of the day, they play enough different quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis. They go from playing like a Keaton Slovis to all of a sudden preparing for a backup who runs a little better, and then they're playing Anthony Richardson and Jaden Daniels. I think they've played enough guys over the past couple of years that it shouldn't be the end of the world, but it does make you spend a little more time throughout the week preparing for both, and that's why coaches don't say anything.
Well, what's the going rate for the tickets, man? You're selling your tickets, man, to make enough to pay for your mortgage
if
now?
anybody wants my parking pass, I'm really trying to finish this helipad on top of my house. So if you want to come get this press pass, we'll talk about it on DMs. But I think it's probably this was on Sunday, heading back from Baton Rouge. That's a long travel time. You're stuck places. You're looking around your phone, fiddling around. At that point, it seemed to me like the lowest get-in price was a little above $450. So, and I would imagine that's just going to go up as the week goes on. So, yeah, you could make the argument that this is the biggest game at Neyland Stadium since Arkansas in '98 when Tennessee was first and ranked number 1, and then Arkansas was ranked number 6 or 7 nationally, or whatever it was at the time. A couple undefeated teams there. That was a big one late in the season. But you could make the argument. Neyland's usually a madhouse, but in terms of 2 top 10 teams, it's, I think, been about that long. It feels like just about. So it's a big game. Even maybe 6-7 years ago, whenever Tennessee and Bama were both ranked pretty highly, there was such a disparity between the teams that you kind of knew, well, this is going to be ugly. But I think because Bama and Georgia have shown some vulnerabilities this season, I think that adds to it, and that's why it's going to be a madhouse on Saturday.
Give us your verdict real quick, a score.
Oh, gosh, I haven't even thought of it yet. If Bryce Young plays, I'll still go Bama by 3 to 6 points maybe. And if he doesn't play, I think Tennessee wins the game.
Oh, there you have it.
Wes, good stuff, man. Thanks for the time today. I know you're doing a lot of radio hits. Always good to catch up with you. At Wes Rucker 247 on Twitter. Everybody needs to jump on that follow. Thank you.
No problem. Anytime, guys. Be well.
Yes, sir. I hope he gets that helipad finished soon. We can fly in, and stay there at the crib. All right, he mentioned 98. Jordan DeJani with a Vols tweet from 98. A very interesting fact that ties the Vols back again to 98. You want to know what this is, and we will share it with you next on Blade and Mickey. Feels like 98. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. This from Jordan DeJani, our regular Wednesday guy, NFL contributor. He did go to the University of Tennessee, so he always finds these interesting tidbits. Okay, Lucas, let me tell you, I'll ask you this. You're a VFL. Did you know this? Tennessee has beaten 3 ranked teams, again, per Jordan DeJani. Tennessee has beaten 3 ranked teams in a season for the first time since 2016. The Vols have not beaten 4 ranked teams in a season since 2001, and that included the bowl game against Michigan. The last time the Vols beat 4 ranked opponents in the regular season was in 1998.
Ooh, there you have it. Jordan DeJani, our guy.
So 98 you said in the regular season.
Yeah, in the regular season.
Yep.
Yeah, so that would have been, I guess Florida would have been ranked. Arkansas was certainly ranked. I don't know that Alabama was ranked when Tennessee went down there that year. But yeah, I would have thought that maybe that would have happened in 01. They got to the SEC championship game, would have gone to the national championship had they not lost to Nick Saban's LSU team that year. But yeah, that's quite a stat.
This also from DeJani. Prior to Nick Saban's arrival at Alabama, Tennessee had beaten Alabama 5 out of 6 times in Knoxville. Bama has won 7 straight in Knoxville since. Then he adds this, and this goes to what Blaine said about how they played last year and that this is a better team this year. Tennessee scored 24 points versus Alabama last season, the most they have scored against Alabama in the Nick Saban era. Mm-hmm. What the heck you think they can score? And again, every year, you can ask anybody. If you ask me who's going to win the national championship in college football, I would just always say, if I had to put money down, I'd pick Alabama every year because that's a safe bet. Tennessee can score on anybody. Mm-hmm. What are they, number 2 in the nation in scoring right now? And Alabama's right behind them. They're 3 or 4, I think. They can score.
Who's won? Do you know, Lucas?
I got it. I can tell you.
They putting up. What are they putting up? Like 40 a game or somewhere?
48 and change.
Man, that's hard to see. You sure that's not a FCS school or something that's getting more than that?
Ohio State. So Ohio State is the highest scoring team in college football right now. TCU is number 3 behind Tennessee. Alabama is 5th. They've really, they put up just 24 obviously against A&M. They struggled to score against Texas, but other than that, they have been scoring essentially at will. Put up almost 50 on Arkansas.
So Ohio State 48.8, Tennessee 46.8, TCU 46.4. Oklahoma State, they always put up points, 45.2. Bama is next, number 5, 44.3. And then, James Madison.
Hey, they're ranked.
James Madison came to Arkansas State Saturday night and just whipped my squad.
They're good.
In the second half.
This is their first year.
Playing. They're good.
This is their first year in Division I, and they are slapping people. They're undefeated.
Yep.
Or they wouldn't be ranked.
They are an AP top 25 football team.
Yeah. Who did they beat? Did they beat MTSU? Who did they beat?
They beat MTSU week 1. They won big.
And that was kind of a surprise. That was a little peekaboo that we for real. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. But yeah, man, this is the biggest thing since '98.
Wes Rucker just said that. Like, we didn't say, hey, how big is this game? If you're just jumping in line with us, Wes Rucker, Go Vols 247, just said, hey, man, this is the biggest game since. Did he say biggest game period or biggest home game?
I think he just said biggest game. Now, it's the first time they've met. Tennessee and Alabama have met, both being undefeated since the 80s. It's been a long time since that's happened.
I think you even said, or did Russ say ranked in the top 10?
No, because it was a top 10 matchup in 2016. Tennessee was the number 9 team in the country. They had just come off that loss to Texas A&M, and it didn't drop them at all in the AP poll, and they just got routed by Alabama. It was like 49-10, I think, was the final. So there was a lot of buzz going into that matchup, but Tennessee was sort of limping into that matchup as well, and I think a lot of fans felt that was coming from that Alabama team. But this is different. I think Tennessee fans have a lot more confidence coming into this game, understanding that if Tennessee had been on that field on Saturday and not Texas A&M, there's a very valid argument that Tennessee would have won that game by a couple of scores.
Mm-hmm. One more from DeJani just tells you again just how absolutely great. I'm going to use the G word, great he has been. Hendon Hooker, DeJani's just been on one with these. Hendon Hooker has gone 8 straight games with multiple passing TDs and no interceptions. He's thrown 239 straight passes without an INT, longest such streak in school history, and the 6th longest such streak in SEC history.
Last interception came against Georgia last season, almost a year.
Wow.
That dude has a chance,
It's a legitimate chance to win the Heisman. Oh, no doubt.
a legitimate chance to win the Heisman.
If they win this game, as I said earlier, it's going to be all bet. Yeah, he's in it. He's in it. And, yeah, he's kind of on the outside. No, he is in it.
Winning games like this against teams like Alabama is what gets you noticed by all those Heisman voters, especially the guys out west who, they're on a different time clock and everything. They sit up that night and watch SportsCenter, and it leads with Hendon Hooker. No turnovers. Maybe he runs for 65 yards and, throws for 295 and 3 touchdowns and runs for 1, and they win. If that happens, shoot. We're leading off with interesting insight from Mike Vrabel. Rep Ryan came in, executive producer of Titans Radio, asked us if we had heard something from Vrabel yesterday in his final press availability. I heard it and had put it in my notes. Then we started just telling Blaine all this stuff. And then we said, why don't you just come in and tell everybody what you know? Interesting thing about playing time from Mike Vrabel with Tennessee Titans. We'll hit you with that next on Blaine and Mickey.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzika. The Titans are idle this week. They're 3-2 at the top of the AFC South after Sunday's win at the Washington Commanders. Head coach Mike Vrabel spoke to the media for the final time this week yesterday about what the team can accomplish when they are off.
Certainly we'll use the time to best to our advantage to try to get guys back healthy, give some guys some rest that have played a lot of football for us, and see if find ways to improve.
Atlanta Braves in action, first round of their divisional series against the Phillies, trailing 6-1, bottom of the fourth, 2 outs, 1 man on first, and Ronald Acuna at the plate facing a full count. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Woo! Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to hour number 2 of this sports extravaganza right here on The Zone. Sandwiched between Buck Rising and 3HL every day. Had somebody wander into the studio for the start of the second hour. Coach Mack will be on with us in 20 minutes or so. Rhett Bryan is in here now.
And radio, yeah.
I'm the warm-up act for Coach Mack.
That's a good thing to be, though.
You better believe it.
Now, no Mac talk this week, right? You guys, you can't hang out in a room and take phone calls with each other.
No Mac talk this week. After last night's program, everything is done. So I'm going to co-host with Lucas tomorrow on Buck's show, and then I am out for the rest of the bye week. I got a lot of things to do, and hopefully some R&R and watching some great football this weekend.
To go chase some waterfalls or something. Go to a small town and eat.
Thank you, Left Eye and T-Bone Chili.
Well, there's a lot of waterfalls in Tennessee. My daughter and I do that every year. We go find one. We actually haven't done it yet this year. We got to get that in before it gets too cold.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. No, that's a good stuff.
Mike Vrabel said some stuff about people chasing playing time.
Yep.
And you stuck your head in here and you did the Mike Vrabel show, which that did air this week. You can catch that Monday nights on 104.5 The Zone. And you were saying he had gotten into a topic that he essentially brought. Do we have all of this audio?
Yeah, so let me set this first one up. So at his press availability yesterday at noon, Corey Curtis from News 2, WKRN, asked him, Mike, is this more a week about self-scout and evaluation? This was his answer.
I think it always is. I mean, I think we're always trying to conscious of what we're doing well and how we can continue to do it well. But also, who can continue to help us, who should play more, who's earned the right to play more, maybe who should play less. So those are decisions that we have to make.
That was the part that got my attention. Who should play less, maybe? And, of course, you guys mentioned a couple of names, but I'm like, maybe it's more than just a couple of names. So as I'm producing the Mike Vrabel show last night, there was a question from Twitter. I have question and answer here. Mike Keith, take it away.
Coach, does your heart race on these close games?
I've gotten used to them. Yeah, I've gotten used to them. So it's hell being a Titans fan. I tell my family that. I can only imagine. And we appreciate every single one of our fans, but it's not easy. But I know they stick with us. Our guys fight like they're defending the Alamo, Mike. I love them. They fight and they compete. I mean, there's
a bunch of those guys were from Tennessee too, right?
I know.
Yes.
And I just, I mean, it's we're at a point where it's, we'd love to have a full roster with the guys we've been working with and guys that haven't been injured and but that's not the reality. Our job's to find 48 guys that are willing to fight and compete, and I'm excited because I think going forward we're gonna start rewarding some guys that have been playing with some great effort. So I'm excited to see that.
Finding 48 guys to fight and compete. I'm excited to give some guys some opportunity on the other side of this bye week. So that got my attention. That's basically carrying on the message from earlier in the day.
And neither time did he get asked, hey, y'all going to look at some new bodies? Are you going
No.
Nobody asked him that.
And that was the other part that got my attention, is that there was nothing that prompted this answer. The message has been laid out, Blaine Bishop. Somebody's getting less playing time and somebody's getting more playing time. And it sounds like it's multiple somebodies.
Yeah, that was that one there, man. I think you guys hit the nail on the head there. I really wish I was a fly on the wall. I mean,
Then we would know everything.
Right, to know exactly what he's referencing on players, because he talked about effort and who deserves more opportunity, really, not necessarily the other guys not playing as
That's
well.
right.
It's just he's not putting forth the effort that they want to the extreme. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder if he's talking about the linebacker group. Some
He could be talking secondary
Right, he could talk
linebacker,
about
could be
secondary.
talking offensive line course. I mean, some of these things
It's easy
are
just
what
to
they
throw
are.
Farley out there, but I'm thinking he's talking more than that, though.
Yeah.
No doubt
you would
about it.
think there's 2 or 3 names you could think of immediately, but it's like I think he's talking about all 3 phases and maybe multiple
sides of the
position
ball?
groups. Yeah, because John Glennon had the stat tweeted out Sunday night after the game and said that through 5 games they've already used 64 different players on this roster, and then Jim White had the one Sunday night where they had used I think 20 or 22 different players on defense already. And, so there's some of it he's talking about roster turnover and who's available, and he's not going to talk about who's not available.
Right.
It's about who's available for him now. But it sounds like they're going to look at who is hustling their what's off on film and maybe who's not.
On a consistent basis.
Because what was it he said there about, who is, giving the effort? I forget, I'm paraphrasing here, but that last cut, he talked about who's showing up.
Whoa, that's a huge statement. And I wonder if he's referencing like that because is he saying regardless of what you're making?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
That could certainly be a part of the equation.
Yeah. And that's to me, when you go out of your way like that, when we turn on the film, we go, hey, man, this guy deserves to be playing because he's giving the effort and everything that we need and want, and is in assignment driven, and he's where he's supposed to be. So,
well, he dropped a hint on you earlier in that presser, and you heard it all, where someone asked him about why Des Fitzpatrick elevation over Josh. Was it because this was going to be Josh's third? And he goes, no, Josh did, he did some stuff for us a couple weeks ago, and we wanted to look at Des. Well, that told me that maybe he wasn't pleased with what Josh did. If you listen close enough, like John Robinson, we've always said, he'll tell you exactly what he's going to do. It's just he does it stone-faced, and you don't like, oh, I missed it. He said it right there.
Yeah. Well, also follow the actions.
Yeah.
He had to elevate, just go. Your actions are telling you too.
That's true. But I'm like, okay, so it sounds like what they're doing today, and then, of course, they'll have a practice tomorrow. Per the CBA, they'll be off 4 days. They'll come back on Monday for a practice, and then here we go back into a regular, game week. But it's like sounds like more than the average self-scout and evaluation going forward. Sounds like he's obviously glad and grateful to be at 3-2, and be over the 500 mark, but knowing that the Colts are on the other side, and then there's some, now Denver doesn't look as bad as it once did on paper because I don't know what's going on with Russell Wilson.
But at KC, at Green Bay.
Double check right there.
Yeah, both on the horizon.
Yeah, Green Bay. The Giants got them Green Bay over London, too.
That was an impressive win.
It really was. I was watching. I was like,
whatever
wow.
Brian Daboll is selling, they are buying it by the buckets full. And they are playing their rear ends off for that dude.
Yeah.
That was impressive. To be down like they were and to reel off 17 unanswered and win that was because that's a long ride home to go with an L.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, their quarterback, may be getting an extension. Or, a new contract.
Danny Dimes becomes Danny Dollars.
Well, man.
Believe it. For Mike Vrabel to say that, you mentioned John Robinson, a lot of times he'll just stone-faced kind of say something, and you're like, oh, that's exactly what they did.
Yep.
Mike Vrabel often doesn't, the other thing that stood out to me was after the game, and I would be paraphrasing, but he kind of talked about Stonehouse like, I didn't think he had his best day.
He said it again last night. He did.
And the outside world's like, Stonehouse is killing it, 55 yards.
Now, I'll say this. And there was a
compared
punt
to
that
the
was,
other days.
Yes.
It was.
Now, there was one.
Day.
There was one 38-yard punt he had.
Yeah.
But that one he had in the second quarter when Washington had moved ahead 10-7, and it's 66 yards, and then there's the offensive holding, and all of a sudden it's a 73-yard flip.
Yeah.
That's huge. Because he said it the week before, last Monday in his presser, he said, I'll take as many 70-yard punts as I can get. But, yeah, I mean, look, he's never going to heap tons of praise on anybody. Hell, he doesn't talk about Jeff Simmons all the time. He didn't talk about Danico Autry all the time. Now, people have asked him about Tierra Tart, who has seriously elevated his game, and that's the thing I'm excited about. Maybe that's some more of the kinds of examples he's talking about. Tierra has a spot in that front seven for sure. But Tierra has played off of that one play. He parlayed that into a really good performance Sunday at Washington from Indianapolis to there, and matching hands and getting. I mean, that dude, he may end up getting another pick. I want to see him get a quarterback sack. I like to see those big guys eat.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I don't know if you guys have seen this. Brian Baldinger, Baldy's breakdowns.
Oh,
he
you know
did
I
the
love
Titans'
Baldy.
final defensive stand.
Excellent breakdown by him. I saw that.
And it was like, watch, and it's Tart and Big Jeff. He said, they know that Wentz can't run because if he's tackled, the game is over. So they took one step forward, then they both just dropped right back into coverage. And there's Tart and Big Jeff breaking up a pass to J.D. McKissick. And he's like, these are 300-pound defensive linemen.
Yes.
Playing their role and breaking up this pass.
Well, how about the one he had downfield to stop Scary Terry?
Yeah.
That would have been
that's what I was going to ask
That might have been to the house.
Big Jeff?
I love stuff like that.
Big
Big
Jeff,
Jeff.
it was 25-yard gain. He tackled him 25 yards downfield.
You guys
Big
have
Jeff.
no idea. When they turn on the tape, other teams, and they see that, they go, what number was that?
Yeah.
Rewind?
That
Was
wasn't
that
that.
58
Yeah,
or
that wasn't
98?
one of those,
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Wait, whoa.
Yeah, they're like,
What
that
number was
wasn't one of those sexy low digit numbers. This was 98.
They go, uh-oh. And if they really showed the real, like how he did it back to back and got him on the sideline, the Carson Wentz.
Now, hey, on the last play, did you go back and see Christian Fulton? I don't think would have let that play happen to McKissick to end it either. Like,
Oh, yeah, he
David
was right
Long
there
made a
behind there,
great
no
play
doubt.
to get.
He was already. He had one arm hook. Yeah,
he was
throwing
right
them
in there, man.
Yeah,
I
And a lot
don't
of-
think that
I
would have
don't
been
even know if
completed.
it was questionable on the pass interference
Oh,
to get down there.
Fulton tweeted today the NFL sent a letter and said, we
Oh,
missed. Sorry.
see?
He sure did.
Sorry, we missed that.
He sure did.
Yeah, I was like, ooh,
that was
that's
a bad
touchy,
call.
especially at that moment. Like,
But that
hell
roughing
no.
the passer
Terrible.
on Big Jeff was
That was
egregious.
Yeah, that was egregious. I don't like
By the
that.
way, how about the Chris Jones roughing the passer call last night? That is the silliest thing. Somebody tweeted last night, I think it was Tom Pelissero, one of the national guys. He goes, that's the first play I've ever seen where roughing the passer means you actually have the ball in your hands.
Yeah, that So, what do you think the resolution to this? Now, I'm sure they frighten everybody in the NFL by sending out, I'm sure, some form of an email to all the referees and everything else. But it's making you think about should those calls be reviewable? Now, I know it takes a long time and everything else is going to make the game longer, and they don't want that. But if you now are going to start making those calls like that, you must be able to review them.
Well,
That was
two-
egregious. I mean, that was horrible.
Blaine, you had two in the same week slate of games because
Yeah.
the one against Tom Brady,
Right, that
same
was
kind of
bad.
thing.
That was bad.
I think
mean,
you should. And
I mean, you're deciding games now because they would have lost that game.
as I saw
To the
this
Falcons,
last night,
Tampa
I
Bay.
thought to myself, you know what? I know one person who's taking notes and who will bring this up, and that is Mike Vrabel because he's on the competition committee. And they will be reviewing those things.
Lastly, very quick, what do you think is going to happen to Devontae Adams on pushing the
Well, the guys filed charges,
I
right?
know. Wow.
I mean, maybe he gets out with sending him an autograph jersey or something. I
don't
don't
know,
know, but
man.
it
I
doesn't
don't
look
I think
good.
he's going to have to autograph a check.
Yeah, I think that's what that guy's looking for. And we'll go to break on that.
Yes, sir. Mickey with the parting shot.
Coach Mack next. We'll continue this discussion. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. We got Predators tickets coming up. We're going to give them away at the end of the segment, Lucas. Is that right? Oh, you want to do it now? Lucas says give them away, so let's do it. Hockey is back. Smashville, are you ready? Be caller 5 now. You got your chance to win these tickets to opening night at Bridgestone Arena. See the Preds take on Dallas. Ooh, that's this Thursday. Don't miss out on 5 home games scheduled during this fabulous month of October. Season and single game tickets available at NashvillePredators.com/tickets. Caller 5-615-737-1045 on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Get in to see those Preds. Coach Mack joins us now. Coach, another heart stopper, but another victory. 3 in a row, headed to the bye week with some momentum. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. How we doing, guys? You know, you've got some momentum. It's always really cool to win games. That was a heart stopper. I've been doing this 37 years. I think my heart's permanently stopped. So just you go on and you just try to win it and you try to move on. But like I said after the game, what this team is doing with the number of key pieces that they are missing, this is a true grit team that is a true find a way to win team, and that's what we're looking at right now. So 3-2 after an 0-2 start, that's pretty big going into a bye.
Will you take us through Brian Baldinger? I know you've been around the league. You know guys like Balding. Probably know Baldy well. He does his breakdowns, and he kind of broke down that final defensive sequence for the Titans. But just curious to get your thoughts as you watch them literally shut them down 3 times from the 2-yard line to win the game.
Well, first of all, I know Baldy very well. He does an excellent job. I've known Baldy forever and ever. I have a big advantage over Baldy on that play because I get to watch him practice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That wasn't something that just happened. I'm just telling you. I mean, that was a tremendous job of paying attention during low red zone period in the classroom, in the walkthrough, and then during practice. What they knew they were going to get, they were going to get a slant flat pick. They knew they were going to get that. They had been doing some of that spider drop stuff early on down there in the low red zone, which is 1 or 2 of the big men punching and then being back there so that you can't pick anybody in crossers. You put those 2 big bodies back there in the middle, that bothers it. But David Long triggered. He had seen that. He knew exactly what was coming. And so he went to shoulder the pick because they were trying to pick him. They were trying to pick him from McKissick. He shouldered the pick. He knew exactly what the play was. That to me, as a lifetime defensive coach in this league, that made me so happy because there's nothing that makes you happier than a coach than to see something that you've worked on and your players have understood, studied film, and then to do it at that time, because that's the biggest moment in the game. And to see that happen, that's why I said hell yes about 12 times on the broadcast, because I had seen that, start to come to fruition all week during practice, and I just love it when that stuff happens. But it was a tremendous play. The biggest part of it was too, he caught it. I mean, that's huge because that's not easy to catch one of those going away from you that they're trying to throw outside of your reach. So that whole thing from the top to the bottom was something that I really enjoyed. But from a coaching aspect of it, I really enjoy just seeing a plan come together.
I heard all those hell yeses because, of course, I was listening to Titans radio like everybody should be. Look to the folks at Farm Bureau Health Plans when you need someone who knows the health care coverage game plan. They've been protecting Tennesseans for over 75 years, and they bring you the Mac Attack here on Blaine and Mickey each week. We love them.
Well, Coach, speaking of hell, yes, I was listening to the broadcast, too. I've only probably listened to, a handful of times. I'm always in front of a TV or something. But, man, I loved at the end we were talking about tight and tough. That's what this team is. Kind of take us through how you got to that point and what made you continually emphasize this team is just a tough son of a you-know-what.
Well, you're right, Blaine, and it's easy to see physical toughness, but the mental toughness part of it, let's talk about the mental toughness, first of all, of rebounding from 0-2. That takes real mental toughness during the week to get prepared, and then being able to be mentally tough enough, to overcome all of these injuries, because, you have backups to backups having to step up right now, and that goes clear to the bottom core of the culture of what Mike Vrabel and John Robinson have put into this franchise. We saw them go through 91 players last year, and God forbid that we're on the way to that this year, but they're already at over 60. And so to me, that's just that is people buying into the culture of what you do, but then working on it daily, and that takes real mental toughness. That's why I said, when I was doing that little thing, that Twitter thing after game with Lucas. I said, if you don't have one of these Tennessee Tough signs in your yard, go get 3 of them, because you've got 3 really tough wins in a row. Stick them in the yard, because, this team doesn't just it's not just a slogan. They are mentally and physically tough, and they're going to need to continue to do that. And, hopefully we can get some people back, but you never count on getting people back. What you count on is people that are playing, producing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're on with Coach Mack, giving us the Mack Attack here from Titans Radio. Speaking of tough, man, I think, man, Tannehill took a beating, man. Well, I just don't know how we're going to be able to keep this up. Hopefully that won't happen again. That was a great defensive line. But what can you do to, let's say, help the O-line when they're struggling like this, and so many of the guys at times throughout the game, to help them throughout, whether it's in the passing game or protection schemes? Like, what would you, like in game, maybe that's a halftime adjustment or on the sideline, what would you think that they can do to try to help some of these guys if we go against an opponent with that kind of a strong defensive line?
Well, first of all, they knew it going in, right?
Yeah.
And they had some chips going on,
They did.
and working. But sooner or later, somebody's going to have to win one-on-one. I mean, that's just the way it works, unless you want to keep everybody in, turn the line, keep your back in, and protect with 8. I mean, that's the answer to stop all of it. But you're still going to have to win one-on-one. If you do that, then you're extending the amount of time, that they have to cover you down the field. So it all goes hand in hand, Blaine. But you're right on one thing. He can't continue to get hit like that. I mean, take the sacks away from it. The sacks are not as bad as the body punches that he's taking. That the body punches are like, a boxer. You can take just so many shots to the middle of your body as to when it really starts to wear you down. And so that has to be eliminated. And you talk about tough. Now, I mean, Tannehill is physically and mentally tough, because he got hit way too many times in that ball game, and he kept coming back, and give him all the credit in the world. And here's the other thing I credit Tannehill with. That's why I like the guy. He's West Texas tough. Big Spring, Texas. Shout out to West Texas. Here's the thing about him, is that when he comes to that sideline, he's not berating anybody. He's not saying what the hell. He just, he's looking at it, talking to them. Here's what we can do. I mean, this guy is a true leader. He really is. And leadership a lot of times comes from being able to display mental toughness when things aren't going correctly, and he does that. So, but you're right in your initial statement, that cannot continue to happen, because, and that was a special rush group that we were facing. We talked about it all week. We talked about it on this show. I mean, those dudes were loaded now, and, Ron Rivera's built that team the right way, and when Chase Young comes back, they're really going to be loaded up front there, because they can rush with 4 and win one-on-ones and win some double teams. So we've got to find. They know the way to do it. You're just going to have to, and the other way to do it is you've got to get traction out of the run game. Continue to get traction out of the run game, then at least you can slow it down a little bit. Thing you don't want to do against a rush group like that is get into 3rd and chains. 3rd and 7 plus, it's just a green light for those guys to get in those sprinter stances and let's go. And when they don't have to play at 50-50 with a group like that, that's rough on you.
Speaking of the king in the running game, man, I know the numbers didn't kind of look impressive, but there was a couple runs where I saw him do some change of direction, something you don't see a lot out of King Henry, and then make something out of nothing. When he gets penetration, his version of a jump cut. I hadn't seen that from him throughout his time really with the Titans, at least on a consistent basis, and I thought he was at the top of his game. As much as 28 carries, 102 yards don't tell you that, I thought he was.
Well, those were 102 tough yards, too. I mean, He's a motivated dude now. And you're right. Yeah, I saw the jump cuts. But the jump cuts, where jump cuts come with backs. And, again, the only reason I know this, I've been around great backs in my time in this league. I mean, great backs. And when you talk to them, you ask them about vision and what the jump cuts come from vision. It comes from a natural peripheral vision thing as to where they can stick a foot in the ground. He's got great vision. He really does. For a tall back, he's got really good vision. And look, he was running powerful. That's what I would say about these last 3 weeks. He is running powerful, and they're making a concerted effort up front, with the blocking unit and with the wide receivers too. I mean, that's why I said that side judge that was making a call from 53 1/3 yards away on that one crackback block on the other side, he's a clown. He's a clown. That was a horrible call. But these wide receivers are getting really a good job of getting into this game of blocking downfield, both on the runs and the screen passes. This screen game is really very impressive. But Derrick Henry, if you can get him to his fourth step, he can make some things happen. Plus, it gets his engine generated too, so he's dropping same foot, same shoulder. And as you said, making yards sometimes when he can get to that fourth step, making yards that aren't there.
There you have it. Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Coach, you mentioned the clown official who called the crackback block. Christian Fulton tweeted today that the Titans had got that letter from the NFL that says, hey, man, sorry, we missed that pass interference call. They had a rough afternoon on Sunday.
Well, you look, and you know me, I'm not afraid to. For 31 years, I couldn't say a word. Now I go at them, and that's why I said during the broadcast, Mike, they should put an ear in there so they're hooked up to us. We can tell them how to spot the ball. They only spotted the ball 3 times on one play.
Yep.
I mean, it's tough when you can't administer the game, and it's really tough when you can't count and you can't add and subtract yardage. I mean, that's a problem. That shows me immediately that when they are that unsure, that is a problem. Christian Fulton can take that letter he got and light his victory cigar with it, because that's about what that's worth.
Oh, sure.
You know, I mean, and to me, look, there's a lot of things going on with this officiating now that I don't agree with. I don't agree with this roughing the passer stuff that's going on at all, because now they've got everybody confused. To me, it's like it was several years ago when they were so confused with what a catch was and what a catch wasn't.
Oh.
I'm nearly to the point, again, I'm not on any competition committee, but I was around it for a lot of years. They're maybe to the point as to where they need to make that automatically reviewable. Don't make a coach challenge it, because how the hell are the coaches going to know, you know, whether they're going to agree or disagree with it? Make it an automatic review when they call roughing the passer, just like they automatically review scores. Make that an automatic review, and let's see it, and see whoever is the wizard behind the curtain up there in New York, if they can get consistent with it, because it's not consistent right now.
Coach Mack, this Titans team, they've kind of shown if you can play ball, they'll find a place for you. They don't care how you got here or you drafted, not drafted. They'll plug you in. If you and Mike Vrabel has basically alluded to that twice now this week. Like, we're about to start playing some people who've earned playing time. One of those dudes is Tierre Tart, and that dude is having a dude of a season right now.
First of all, Mike Vrabel didn't allude to it. He said it.
Yes.
All right. I mean, Mike Vrabel alludes to nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, he if you'll listen, he'll tell you, and that's the way he is with his players. Look, once you get in here, especially if you're on an active roster, it's production time now.
Right.
You know, because the salary cap's already set. I don't care how much you make. If you're not producing, you don't need to be playing. And that's the way that he is too. Tierre Tart's a great example, you know, of a guy that has worked his way into this by production. They didn't start letting him play in the rotation because they thought he was a great guy, which he is. He was producing. And now all of a sudden you can see, you know, you get a little confidence, and all of a sudden, and I tell you what, when he starts doing stuff like that, that lifts everybody else. I mean, that dude leads a team in pass breakups. And people may think that's a funny thing. It's not, because matching hands up front, especially if you know, the line is turning to Big Jeff. Let's just everybody agree with that. Mm-hmm. The line's turning to Big Jeff, but now he and Danico Autry are able not only to beat a one-on-one, but if it's a quick throw, I mean, T. Williams, their coach, works on this all the time, matching hands with that quarterback depending on where the drop is, and they read it. They read that directional delivery key just like a safety does. As soon as that front hand comes off the ball, they're starting to match hands. And so I love what Tierre Tart's doing. And guess what he's got to do? Keep doing it. That's how he keeps playing.
Yes, sir. Coach Mack keeping the Mack attack going here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, a couple more questions, Coach. And then, first let's start off with Farley. And, it seems like there's just something, there with on the deep balls. Anything that you're seeing from the booth, watching him play, over these last 5 games to see if he's doing anything that he could help himself? Because, man, he just looked like he doesn't have the speed to run with these guys at times. I mean, I'm just like, man, what dang. I mean, he looked like a safety out there. He looked like me breaking up, falling down out there, Coach. That's why I'm had to move from corner.
Well, here's the deal. I don't know where his speed is now after the ACL operation, mm-hmm. but I know this: if that is deficient from what it was, and it's not still built up, then it needs to ability align. You need to understand who you're playing against. That guy he was lined up against was 4-2-0. All right. And so, when they just sit back there and launch that thing, you're going to have the ability to line and don't let them run up on your feet, get turned. But look, he's the one that has to do it. I promise you, he is getting quality coaching. But sooner or later, that coach is on the sideline and you're on the field, right?
Yep.
You got to do it. You've got to do it, and that's his charge now. Is he's fought back from injury. He's done that. Again, I don't know where his knee is speed wise. I don't really know, but I do know this, that sooner or later you've got to find a way to get it done and make it work, because it's important when you're out there. First of all, I don't know him personally as a person. If I was in a room with him, I might know him. I would know him a little bit better. But you've got to develop a confidence too back there that if something bad does happen, you've got to be able to flush that and not be cautious about it happening again. Just play. And so to me, that is it. There's nothing. Look, there is not a defense that was set in the world to let somebody run by you. None. So get it fixed.
Well, Coach, talk about this. Doesn't happen a lot, but I think it's starting to, in the NFL, happen a little bit more in trades during the season. I saw Carolina, they fired their coach, and everybody's talking about players up for trades. Kind of take us through, in today's era, like how trades come about and how the GMs have conversations and if something happens or not. Kind of take us through that. Just give us behind the curtain type, conversation.
Well, first of all, you got to have money on your cap to be able to trade for somebody.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's number one, and you got to see what the contract situation is of the player you are trading for. That is, first of all, they've got to be available, right? But then you got to be able to have cap space, and that's one of the biggest deterrents to trades in the National Football League is cap space. Either that, or you've got to be able to create cap space. But anytime, people need to understand, if you create cap space by redoing somebody's contract, you're not taking money away from them. You're just pushing money forward and giving them more money up front, so that you can do the cap magic as to where you create more space. All right. So a lot of it has to do with what your cap availability is, and then clearly, it takes two to trade. And whenever trades are made in the middle of the season, if a team is not doing well, look, I'm going to LA this weekend. I'm going to go talk to some, for the second or third meeting with somebody that's writing this book that they want me to write. And also I'm going to do that national game on Sports USA on Sunday with the Rams and the Panthers. So I'm going to get a firsthand look at this thing, because clearly the Panthers, they're a mess. You hire a college coach and he didn't know what he was doing, so they're a mess. They let him go, and Tepper's going to pay him $40 million to go away. But when you start looking at teams that have players like that they may be willing to trade off if they're going to make a complete rebuild, you've got to be sure, first of all, you can fit them into your cap, not only now but in the future.
Were the fans cheering for the backup quarterback to come out there? I don't know if I was hearing my TV wrong or what was going on there in the Commanders.
I can't hear the fans because I've got the cans on my head. Okay. I know there was a fan in front of us that Brad Willis was about to hit right between the eyes, because that in Washington, they're right there like in Baltimore where they can turn around at us.
Oh yeah.
This guy was very obnoxious, and finally they had a SWAT policeman come into our booth, fully armed, AK and everything, strapped up, and peeked his head over and looked at that guy, and all of a sudden that guy became a mouse.
There you have it. Not a frog though. Not a frog. Not
a frog. There's a difference. Mouse.
Coach Mack, thank you. Great stuff as always. Enjoy your trip out to the West Coast. We'll talk to you soon.
Guys, always a pleasure. See you.
Yes, sir. The one and only Coach Mack. When we come back, I have a philosophy about something, and I feel like my philosophy was proven correct last night. Also, Jason's on the phone, and we'll talk to him. Or you, 615-737-1045. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Coach Mack just appeared in the studio here after we talked to him. So we're getting a lowdown on his Coach Mack travels.
Yeah,
time
man,
traveler.
time
He is a
traveler,
time
man.
traveler.
No doubt.
Jason is a time traveler. He's traveling on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Let's grab his call right quick. What's going on, Jason?
What's going on, guys?
You tell us.
I just want to touch base on the Titans. The Titans, considering from last year, they have an upper hand to everybody. They have an upper hand on everybody, from the way I see it. Nobody else has had that many injuries, went through that many players in 1 year, and still almost made the Super Bowl. So that's the upper hand I see the Titans have. They know how to play as a team. So giving all the crap to, Ryan Tannehill or this or that, we don't have A.J. Brown anymore. Our team is a complete team, if you see me, because they do what they can with what they have, and they still, almost get the job done, making it to the Super Bowl really close last year. And then also wanted to touch base on what are the Miami Dolphins doing about a quarterback since they're down to their rookie.
I appreciate the phone call, Jason. Lucas Panzika, I think, is actually going to be their emergency quarterback for the Dolphins this week.
I am battling it out with their 7th-round rookie Skylar Thompson out of Kansas State.
Dan Marino.
Oh, yeah, Skylar Thompson. Yeah, he's a solid college player.
Hey, man, I know every team always thinks, gosh, we got it bad. Think about that. I mean,
third-string quarterback.
That'd be like, hey, Titans rolling with Logan Woodside this week, third-string quarterback.
I mean, look around. The Saints somehow win without Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas, and they lose Chris Olave in the process. He was having a nice game. He gets hurt. They beat Seattle 39. They put up 39 points.
Taysom Hill in small doses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I'll just go and beat you guys.
But then people think that he can become a starter again.
Nope.
That's what happens.
That's
what happens. Because it's a glimpse. It's just a glimpse. And now you got to do it back-to-back. I like him for a curveball, change of pace, and he can actually play quarterback, but I would probably implement him a little bit more to see if he could be actually. But they gave him that money. I think he took a pay cut now, though. But, he's not. He's not your franchise quarterback.
Cowboys are 4-1. Dak Prescott was there for one game, and it was the first one that they lost. The Chargers have lost everybody. Keenan Allen's still out. Joey Bosa's still on IR.
They tried to lose, and I know you think their coach is a clown. They tried to lose. He tried so hard to lose. I think last night, you guys, speaking of trying to lose, you guys know that what's my philosophy about 2-point conversions? Only if
you have to.
You have to. Last night, KC and the Raiders, what a fun game. KC went for 2 with 7 minutes and 25 seconds left to go.
That was a ding-dong move by Andy Reid. I'm telling you, man, he used to do stuff like this before, but it never cost him, and it didn't cost him in this game. All he had to do was kick the extra point and air up 8. Guess what? The worst thing could happen. You get a tie. They can go for a 2-point if they score, but they got to score.
Yep.
See, that's what I'm telling you, but analytics and all this other crap, nope, I'm going to finish the game. Nope, it's over. No, how about you can finish yourself, and then you don't get it, and then they get the 2-point, you tie, and you go in overtime. You never know what's going to happen.
Then the ding-dong Raiders went for 2 with 4:27 left to go. We're going to try to win. Against Patrick Mahomes, he can beat you in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good.
Yeah, I'm out of
All you did was set yourself up to lose. So they went for 2. They didn't get it on a run up the middle. The Raiders had a final. And then how about Josh McDaniels? I wouldn't hire that guy to coach my son's flag football team.
I'm not a big fan.
They had a final chance on 4th down. The Raiders to try to win the game. Adams and Renfro ran right into each other, completely obliterated each other on the play.
Well, now that's not him though. That's on the players.
I know, but just
that's on the players. But I wouldn't have went. I mean, hey, they had
that's the play they ran, which they should have run that maybe on 3rd. They should have switched their 3rd and their 4th down call. I thought on that, but anyway, dude, the Raiders. Kick, just kick the extra point.
Not to mention that
kick the extra point.
Devontae, he's gonna have to give up some moolah.
Yeah,
even though it wasn't a violent push or anything like that. Can't be doing that, and you're gonna pay the price. I'm just interested to see if the league got the cojones to suspend him for a game, or are they just gonna fine him, because it's just a perception of what that looked like.
Yep.
And sometimes that's more than anything else besides a fine. But I don't know if it was worthy of that. That guy kind of was. Barely got pushed.
Well, Luke's is going to push us out of the studio here because it's time for 3HL Next. We'll be back tomorrow, though. Don't worry.
But in the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.